Bank of Indonesia ensures that IMF special drawing rights are not debts. Sued by lesser, Garuda Indonesia suffered defeat in arbitration court. Hello, good evening. Market Headlines is ready to provide you a number of information from business, economic, and capital market sectors. And as the pandemic is still ongoing, we will provide you the latest COVID-19 information. And please stay safe by taking some simple precautions, such as physical distancing, wearing a face mask, avoiding crowds, cleaning your hands, and having less mobility. With me, Wicky Adrian. This is Market Headlines. President Joko Widodo confirmed that the government would complete 17 dam projects by the end of the year. The completion of the dam project is carried out not only to ensure sustainable water needs, but also to support national food security.
Previously, a number of dams had been completed and inaugurated during early January until now, including the Tukul Dam in Pacitan Regency, the Tapin Dam in Kapen Regency in South Kalimantan, and the Nampun Gate Dam in Sika Regency, East Nusa Tenggara. Jakarta Firmansyah for IDX Channel.
Bank of Indonesia ensures that the special drawing rights from the International Monetary Fund are not debts that are deliberately proposed by the government. Bank of Indonesia stated that SDR was given to all IMF's members to anticipate the medium-long-term risk. The increase in foreign exchange reserve in August 2021 to $144.8 billion was due to additional special drawing rights allocation from the IMF. Head of the International Department of Bank of Indonesia, Dodi Zulferdi, emphasized that the IMF has allocated special drawing rights to all member countries, not only Indonesia. He explained that the policy was carried out to support the resilience of all IMF member countries in facing the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The allocation of SDR is carried out by the IMF according to the quota owned by each country.
Memang pasca krisis COVID ini diperkirakan kondisi ekonomi dunia belum akan sepenuhnya kembali secara normal dalam track pertumbuhan yang seperti sebelum krisis. Pasti ada banyak dampak yang akan lama bisa kembali normal. Oleh karena itu dibutuhkan penguatan ketahanan di seluruh negara. Karena ini krisis global, tidak ada satupun negara yang lepas. Jadi memang konteksnya untuk memperkuat ketahanan.
Indonesia's economy is believed to be recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. The rise of the Indonesian economy is marked by an increase in electricity consumption, which reached 146 terawatt-hours from January to July 2021. The electricity consumption grew by 4.44% compared to the same period last year. Spokesperson for PLN, Intan Fahdiana, said the increase in electricity consumption is an indication of economic recovery that can be seen in several sectors, such as electricity consumption in the industrial sector, which grew by 9.93%, and the household sector grew by 3.34%. Meanwhile, based on data, the growth in electricity consumption in the industrial sector that experienced the highest growth was iron and steel at 21%, followed by automotive 19.5%. and textile 6.9%.
Mencatat konsumsi listrik mencapai 146 terawatt-hour pada Januari hingga Juli 2021. Nah, indikasi ini tentu saja menunjukkan bahwa memang ada pertumbuhan ekonomi atau Indonesia sudah mulai bangkit dari pandemi COVID-19. Kalau kami prosentasekan, pertumbuhan ini mencapai 4,4% jika dibandingkan dengan tahun lalu pada periode yang sama.
Moving on to global update, President Joe Biden has announced a series of measures to boost vaccination rates against COVID-19 in the United States. Meanwhile, from Asia, Ford Motor Company will shut its car factories in India and record roughly $2 billion in restructuring charges. More stories on International Minute.
U.S. President Joe Biden has announced a series of measures to boost vaccination rates against COVID-19 in the United States, including requiring federal employees to get inoculated and mandating that large employers ensure their workers are vaccinated or tested weekly for the virus. In a speech on Thursday, Biden voiced dismay that some Americans were refusing to take the vaccine amid a jump in cases and deaths from the virus, largely driven by unvaccinated people. President Vladimir Putin and his Belarusian ally agreed to closer economic ties and new loans from Moscow, and the Kremlin moved to capitalize on Alexander Lukashenko's international isolation. The two neighbors linked in a so-called Union State agreed to tighter coordination in economic policy but stopped short of a common currency. Russia will continue deeply discounted supplies of natural gas to Belarus through the end of next year, as the two move to gradually integrate energy markets. Putin also said Russia will provide another $630 million in loan for Belarus through the end of next year. China made an unprecedented intervention in the global oil market, releasing crude from its strategic reserve for the first time with the explicit aim of lowering prices. The announcement comes amid surging energy costs in China, not just for oil but also for coal and natural gas and electricity shortage. In some provinces that have forced some factories to cut production, inflation is rapidly rising too, a political headache for Beijing. Oil slumped. Ford Motor Co. will shut its car factories in India and record roughly $2 billion in restructuring charge, scaling back significantly in the country that past management saw becoming one of its three biggest markets. Manufacturing of vehicles for sale in India will stop immediately, and about 4,000 employees will be affected, the car market said in a statement on Thursday. IDX Channel reports.
Market headlines will be right back after the break. Stay tuned.
Ingin menjalani kehidupan yang mapan dan masa depan yang sejahtera? Sikapi uang dengan bijak. Mulailah berinvestasi di pasar modal. Dengan membeli saham melalui Bursa Efek maupun perusahaan sekuritas, Anda dapat menikmati hasil keuntungan dari perusahaan-perusahaan besar yang tersedia. Pastikan Anda berinvestasi di perusahaan yang memiliki izin resmi. Cerdas mengelola, masa depan sejahtera. Otoritas Jasa Keuangan, lembaga pengawas industri jasa keuangan yang terpercaya.
Seiring meluasnya cakrawala investasi di tengah pasar saham yang dinamis. Analisa mendalam diperlukan untuk menemukan saham berorientasi value yang menghasilkan kinerja yang tinggi. IDX Channel akan mengulas isu pasar dan pergerakan saham terkini. Saksikan ulasannya bersama analis terpercaya hanya di IDX Channel.
Indonesia dipastikan sudah terlepas dari jurang resesi ekonomi setelah berhasil tumbuh positif.
Pemerintah melihat bahwa Q4 adalah potensi untuk kita membalikkan keadaan kembali. Kita memperkirakan
Satgas COVID-19 tetap mengingatkan agar masyarakat tetap disiplin dalam menegakkan protokol kesehatan.
Pemerintah akan melakukan upaya terbaik untuk memvaksinasi sebanyak mungkin orang dan secepat mungkin.
Kementerian Perdagangan optimistis target pemerintah untuk membuat 30 juta UMKM go digital bisa tercapai di akhir tahun 2023. Wisata Bali dan Labuan Bajo hingga saat ini masih menjadi favorit.
Welcome back. Garuda Indonesia suffered defeat in the case of a lawsuit for payment of aircraft leases with an aircraft charter company or lessor at the London Court International Arbitration. Regarding the defeat, Garuda Indonesia is required to make rent payments for the aircraft lease and obligations.
Garuda Indonesia suffered a defeat in the case of a lawsuit for payment of aircraft lease with one of the aircraft charter companies at the London Court of International Arbitration. Regarding the decision, Garuda Indonesia President Director Irfan Setiaputra stated that the company is currently coordinating with the legal counsel who handles the case to consider the next steps the company can take. Initially, the state-owned airline received a report on September 6, 2021 that LCIA had handed down an arbitration award in the case of a lawsuit from lessor Helis and Atterissage Goshak against Garuda Indonesia regarding the payment of aircraft rent. The LCIA renders an arbitration award which, in essence, the company is required to make rent payments for the aircraft lease and obligations under the aircraft lease agreement. This includes payment of flat interest as well as payment of the plaintiff's court fees. For information, it is known that Garuda Indonesia has several times received lawsuits from lessors since last year because it is considered that it has not fully fulfilled its obligations or is suspected of default. One of the most frequent is the lawsuit from Helis, who initially filed a lawsuit in the Dutch court containing a request for confiscation of funds belonging to Garuda Indonesia which was in the Dutch account. The court granted the lawsuit in March 2020. IDX Channel reports.
Regarding the loss of Garuda Indonesia at the London Court International Arbitration, the Minister of SOE has directly asked Garuda Indonesia to review and take further steps on the LCIA court's decision.
The Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises spoke up regarding the loss of Garuda Indonesia at the London Court International Arbitration. The state-owned airline lost in the case of a planned rental payment lawsuit with one of the aircraft charter companies or lessor. Special staff to the Minister of SOEs, Arya Sinulinga, said the Ministry of SOEs was currently asking Garuda Indonesia to learn more about the court's decision. However, Arya ensured that Garuda Indonesia's defeat by the lessor would not disrupt the company's operations. He said Garuda Indonesia flights would continue as normal. Previously, Garuda Indonesia Finance and Risk Management Director Prasetyo said on September 6, 2021, the company received information that the London Court International Arbitration had rendered an arbitration decision in the case of a lawsuit from lessor Helis and Atterissage or Goshak against Garuda Indonesia regarding the payment of aircraft rental fees. Meanwhile, President Director of Garuda Indonesia Irfan Setiaputra stated that the company was coordinating with the legal representatives who handled this case to consider the next steps the company could take. IDX Channel reports.
Meanwhile, Garuda Indonesia is getting more and more difficult to get out of losses. Even the net loss of the state-owned airline reached 12.8 trillion rupiah in the first semester of 2021.
Garuda Indonesia is getting more and more difficult to get out of losses. Even the net loss of this state-owned company increased significantly in the first semester of 2021. Based on financial statements, the company recorded a net loss of $898.65 million. The net loss was 26% higher than loss in the first semester of 2020 of $712.72 million. Garuda Indonesia's inflated loss was also due to the fall in the company's operating income to only $696.8 million. Meantime, the biggest decrease in revenue was from scheduled flights, which fell from $750.25 million to $556.53 million. IDX Channel reports.
Garuda Indonesia is reported to have cancelled all orders for Airbus aircraft and handed over 20 units of A320 aircraft to its subsidiary CityLink. The decision is related to Race CityLink, which will be included in the Indonesian Aviation and Tourism Holding.
Garuda Indonesia is reported to have cancelled all orders for Airbus aircraft and handed over 20 aircraft to CityLink Indonesia. This decision is the result of a company meeting held on September 1st, 2021. The move was based on a management decision in which Garuda decided that CityLink Indonesia would be raised and Garuda Indonesia would be reduced. CityLink Indonesia shares are indeed dominated by Garuda Indonesia. Therefore, CityLink's empowerment efforts are also a management initiative to maintain the sustainability of the parent business. The decision to raise CityLink is also related to the establishment of the Indonesian State-Owned Aviation Holding, where CityLink will be included in the holding, which is currently being formed by the government through the Ministry of SOEs. The progress of the establishment of the holding is currently still in the stage of finalizing a government regulation. It is targeted that this holding will be formed at the end of the third quarter of 2021. The entry of CityLink will replace its parent Garuda Indonesia, which is currently still in the process of restructuring for a number of obligations to its creditors. IDX Channel reports.
Stay with us because market headlines will be right back after the break.
Presiden Joko Widodo tidak ingin lagi mendengar ada kasus suap dalam pengurusan perizinan.
Saya tidak mau lagi mendengar ada kesulitan yang dihadapi para pengusaha. Saya tidak mau lagi mendengar ada suap.
Ya halo pemirsa, nama saya Mangivera Tjong. Saat ini saya menjabat sebagai presenter dan juga associate producer. Saat ini saya membawakan program IDX Conversation Closing, di mana di program tersebut saya menganalisa isu-isu ekonomi yang menarik, baik dari luar negeri maupun juga dari dalam negeri. Tentunya hingga saat ini saya masih terus belajar dan saya sangat menikmati profesi tersebut.
Yang penting menikmati proses, belajar dari semua proses karena sesuai dengan kehidupan gitu ya, semua berproses. Yang abadi di dunia ini adalah perubahan. That's what I think.
Sebenarnya lebih dominan tuh disebutnya apa?
Aku hanya melakukan apa yang aku suka dan aku hanya berusaha konsisten di situ gitu ya. Iya, sebut aja Tia Subiakto.
For the last segment at the Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement earlier today, JCI was opened at the level of 6,071.02, and then approaching the closing time of the session, the index was on the level of 6,098.05. Then the index was showing strengthening trend by the second session closing time. Index was closed at the level of 6,094.87. In short, JCI went up 0.44%. And next we're going to see the sectoral movement leading the dynamics of today's trading. We got basic sector went up 1.82%, transportation and logistics went up 0.99%. Meanwhile, property went down 0.8%, industry went down 0.7%. And moving on to top gainers and top losers, here are the key highlights from today's trading session. ANTM went up 6.15% to the level of 2,590 rupiah per share. BBRI went up 1.34% to the level of 3,780 rupiah per share. Arto went up 5.89% to the level of 14,825 per share. BBYB went up 12.08% to the level of 1,485 rupiah per share. Meantime, the top losers for today's trading session, we got BMRI went down 2.36% to the level of 6,200 rupiah per share. BBCA went down 0.76% to the level of 32,600 rupiah per share. Telkom went down 1.77% to the level of 3,330 rupiah per share. And Asa International went down 0.46% to the level of 5,425 rupiah per share. And this is the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. Opened at the level of 14,222 rupiah, was also showing strengthening trend towards US dollar and was closed at the level 14,314. In summary, rupiah went up 0.01%. Cigarette manufacturer HM Sampurna expects that the increase in cigarette excise rate for 2022 can be more moderate. The company's expectation is based on the cigarette industry condition, which is currently experiencing a decline in productivity.
HM Sampurna hopes that the increase in cigarette excise tax for 2022 can be more moderate because the cigarette industry is currently experiencing a decline in productivity. In fact, the cigarette industry has been a labor-intensive industry that plays an important role in the national economy. The President Director of HM Sampurna, Mindaugas Trumpaitis, acknowledged that excise is one of the pillars of the state budget to drive the national economy. However, a high increase will certainly hit this industry, which in the end will have an impact on the realization of employment. It is known that the government targets excise revenues of 203.9 trillion rupiah in the state budget draft for 2022. This amount is an increase of 11.84% from the 2021 state budget, which is 182.2 trillion rupiah. He hopes that the plan to increase excise duty can be reconsidered so that the national cigarette industry can survive. IDX Channel reports.
As the coverage ratio is projected to be above 120%, Bank Tabungan Negara is optimistic that it will be able to achieve its 2021 business performance target.
Bank Tabungan Negara or BBTN is optimistic that it will be able to achieve its 2021 business performance target because the company's coverage ratio until the end of this year is projected to be above 120%. According to the Deputy President Director of BTN, Nixon Elpenapitopulu, in Bank BTN's business plan for the 2021 fiscal year, the company targets asset growth of around 2 to 4%. Loans around 6 to 8% and third-party funds in the range of 5 to 7% year-on-year. Nixon said the growth target would be accompanied by capital strength and reserves. Nixon further said that until the end of 2021, BTN targets a capital adequacy ratio of around 16 to 18%, while the coverage ratio can be above 120%. In order to maintain this positive performance, BBTN, as the leading bank in the home ownership loan market, has initiated various transformations, including strengthening credit access to segments that have the potential to achieve large growth. In addition, BTN also continues to increase the collection of low-cost funds and focuses on branches and outlets as point of sales and services so that the credit process can be carried out at the regional level. IDX Channel reports.
Meantime, Bank Jatim managed to record a positive performance in the first semester of 2021. The company's net profit was recorded at 803 billion rupiah, or grew by 4.32% year-on-year.
supported by Indonesia's economic growth, which began to improve, and East Java's economic growth of 7.05% year-on-year. Bank Pembangunan Daerah Jawa Timur or Bank Jatim managed to record a positive performance compared to the same period in the previous year. Based on financial report, Bank Jatim's assets were recorded at 95.48 trillion rupiah or grew 26.9%. Profit before tax reached 1.04 trillion rupiah or grew 5.56%. The company's net profit was recorded at 803 billion rupiah or grew by 4.32%. During first semester, Bank Jatim third-party funds recorded a growth of 27.36% of 81.52 trillion rupiah. Although still in the midst of a pandemic, Bank Jatim was also able to record positive credit growth, which grew 8.72% or 42.6 trillion rupiah. Credit growth in the MSME sector was the highest contributor, growing by 14.62% or recorded at 7.25 trillion rupiah. Followed by the growth of commercial credit, which grew by 13.39%, and credit in the consumption sector, which grew 5.26% or recorded 24.72 trillion rupiah. IDX Channel reports.
So aside from market condition as the efforts in achieving herd immunity is still going on, here it is another data about COVID-19 vaccinations in Indonesia. And the news close our market alliance today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, Your Trustworthy Economic, Business and Capital Market Channel. We can get through this pandemic by staying disciplined on health protocols. Everyone must wear a face mask because it can protect us from COVID-19. Use mask properly and encourage family and people around you to do the same. I'm Wicky Adrian. Have a nice evening and stay safe.